All right, everybody. I think we're live. Comment below if you can see our beautiful bearded faces.
I
Please.
think I understand now why Lane uses the timer. That was a very abrupt. It was like
It was about,
broadcast is
yeah.
live. Like I was like, oh, hi.
No idea how to do it, so I'm trying to figure all this out. So yeah,
Lane was trying to stop us from ending up half naked when we started our
true.
things. That's what he was doing. That
We had to
makes
put our
sense.
clothes on. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, let us know if you guys can hear us or see us, or make sure we can see you. Renee, I see you there. Joanne, thank you for joining us. Jai Davis, thank you. All right. Well, it's great to see all you guys. Cameron, you able to see the comments?
Not yet. Let me just. I can see private. Oh, here we go. Comments. There we
Yep.
go.
See
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great.
All right.
Very cool.
Well, I'm just hanging out. I was talking to Cameron earlier. We jumped on a little bit earlier. We were talking snake bite, baby stuff,
Mostly
beard
baby stuff. Yeah.
stuff. We did talk probably about 50, or maybe 49% of the time about beard care. Just making
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Making sure that Shane knows that you can, in fact, do some.
Yeah,
Look at this.
you don't just grow and look pretty. You got to actually do something to it. So I'm
Shane,
trying.
what cracks me up about your beard is like, you know how some guys grow a beard and like they can't grow bits and patches and stuff, right? Like I feel like your beard is the exact opposite. I've never seen a beard that grows from every direction from all places.
I brushed it like 5 times today. It's just
No, it's like, but like,
on the
there's
cheeks.
it's just so thick. It's crazy.
Well, I did just jump in the pool too, so it's probably all crazy now. But yeah, it's
Oh, is it warm enough there for that?
It's
Not quite here.
Oh yeah, you're in the you're way over there. So yeah, so
I mean, it's a beautiful day. It's beautiful. Sunny weather, but it's been just hovering right between like mid 50s to mid 60s, which is actually really lovely walking weather. You know what I mean? Throw on a jacket and go outside, but it is not swimming pool weather. In fact, I don't think Scotland has swimming pool weather, which is weird because they do actually swim here and they go out into the ocean and like it's like an active sport that they do. They all have wetsuits and they go out and do it.
Yeah.
And I think they're insane. But they all wear stocking caps, which is fucking hilarious because they're out there in the middle of the ocean with stocking caps on because it's so cold that they can't, and they don't put their heads under the water. It cracks me up, man. Strange people. Love them.
It is weird. Have you ever swam with a dry suit or wetsuit? Can't remember the difference. Dry suit's warmer, right?
I've been told I have no choice and we will be. And I think I don't know. I honestly have no idea. They sell it all here because it's like a whole thing in St. Andrews specific because they have the 2 beaches on either side that you can use. But the kids, especially, they have a bunch of kids stuff. So like all the kids wear these wetsuits and go running out and playing and stuff. And there's lots of dogs. So at some point I'll give it a shot. But I don't know, man. That Wim Hof method is not something I'm ready quite to commit to the cold part of that. I can do the breathing, but not the cold.
You got to try it, man. Like with a wetsuit or dry suit. Like I said, I can't remember which one's warmer. One of them is. You have more fear going in than you do once you hit the water because it really.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not afraid of it. I've gone into like sub-zero temperature like situations before. It's more just like I don't find it recreational. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, yeah, that's what I do on my Saturdays, and I'm like, that sounds like a nightmare. But we'll see if my son likes it. You know what I mean? I guess I won't have a choice. So yeah.
I mean, maybe in a couple of years, but right now, absolutely not.
Yeah. I get the feeling this is going to be the story of my life for a long time. Just if he likes it, this is what you'll be doing for the next however long, watching Coco Melon or what have you.
Yep, Baby Shark. Get used to it.
Yeah.
But no, Jonathan Yanez, I think he's been doing cold showers every day. Like him and I talked about it for a while, and I did it for
a long time. But I did it, funnily enough, in Florida in the summer. And I was like, I don't know why people bitch about this. This is nothing. Because it was turning it all the way to cold. And I was like, I mean, it's not great, but I can stand in here 2 minutes, no problem. It's always like everybody that I see on videos and stuff seems to be bitching a lot about it. And then I went back to Maryland, and it was like I think it was probably December, and gave it the old, flipped it all the way to cold, and was like, what the is going on? I jumped, I almost broke something. It was pretty amusing, but it hadn't occurred to me at all that, of course, the water just doesn't get cold enough in Florida at peak summer to be cold, to be like traditionally really cold. But it's a ballsy move, man. It's really good for you though. It's really good for your stress and immune system and all kinds of stuff.
It's amazing for you. Like I started in winter, it was like December when I started, and it was shocking. Like it literally jars you because it's cold outside. If it was in the summer, like you said, but it jars you. But then if you can withstand a minute, you build up. You don't start at 5 minutes sub-zero, but you build up. And once you do it, you kind of get out and you're like, man, I feel wired. I feel like it's
it does. It's very effective. Like it's like a almost like a hit of coffee or a nap. You know what I mean? Like you just get I used to use it. Funnily enough, I would use it for writing when it was like my brain had just kind of gone into like, I'm done, but I still had work to do that day. And I like had a limited time. So like, say I was like, all right, I want to be done by 7 tonight, but I need to like get another 2,000 words done in the next hour. It's the kind of thing where I would do that. Like, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to jump into the cold shower and just try and, get awake enough to do this extra work.
Yeah.
It does really kind of reset you.
Yeah, it's like a snap in the face. It just kind of like wakes you up, and you're like, okay, I got this. I can do it. But for anyone just joining, I see we've got Boston, we've got Florida, Tennessee, we got all over the place. Louisville, Kentucky. That's awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't met us before or know who we are, and you're just kind of someone sharing this with you, I'm Shane Silvers. I write urban fantasy. I write the Nate Temple series, the Feathers and Fire series, and then the Shaded Devil series. And then this is
Cameron O'Connell. I am a co-author of the Phantom Queen Diaries, part of the Templeverse, author of the thus far standalone, but to be eventually fleshed out Ventlight Archives and Echoes of Ventlight. We have like a couple different terms that we throw out for it. Just all around writer doing the best I can.
And you're in Scotland?
Yep. Freshly moved to Scotland, freshly made a father. So if I sound a little beleaguered at this point, it's 11 o'clock at night here and it's been a day. Absolutely. Living in Scotland now, it's fantastic. It's a really cool place. Nice change of pace. I've moved around a lot my entire life, so it's not super abnormal. But it is definitely a switch from the US.
Yeah. Well, you were born overseas, right?
I was born in Berlin. Berlin, and then moved to California, and then to Japan, and then to the Midwest, to Kansas, and then around a bunch after that in the States, around the different coasts. And then, now moved to Scotland. So I guess I technically lived for a little while in Barbados. That was pretty sick.
But yeah, that was. I was envious, especially when you
showed
a video of you touring the apartment, or not apartment, but the suite that you guys had.
It was unreal. It got to a point, we took so many pictures while we were there, but it was COVID had kicked off about 3 or 4 months before. And so we got there and we started posting all these just incredible things. We're swimming with turtles and we're like hanging out with these horses who get out. Like it was like there was a racetrack of horses that would get taken out to the beach every morning and like run out to the beach, like run out through the water. They would swim super far out and come back. All of the forests and stuff like that. You could see the tropical forests. And we took so many pictures that we just stopped posting because people were just like, we don't fucking care. Like we don't want to see it. Yeah, they were all pissed, which fair enough. But we were just like, it's crazy. I have on my phone, obviously, a lot of those pictures, and occasionally I'll like go back looking for something like a passport or something that I took a picture of so that we could travel, and I'll see them again, and I'm like, man, it's unreal that we did all these things, and I still haven't showed them because now at this point it's like it was so long ago. It's like, oh, why would I even bother? But it's a wild time.
That's nuts. So you just wrote a new book, and it's why don't you tell us a little bit about it? It's book 13, right?
Book 13 of the Phantom Queen Diaries, for sure. So it is, I won't say it's a culmination book, but in a lot of ways, it wraps up a lot of threads of Quinn's story, kind of intentionally. The goals were kind of set up early on for a lot of these things, not all of the things, because obviously there's a lot of freedom that goes into the books and a lot of tweaking that you do as you're building. But the whole of her arc, I think, kind of leads to this moment and will lead forward from here. But one of the fun parts about doing her the way that she was done in this is that it also, in some ways, wraps up a lot of arcs for the other two series, the Nate Temple and the Feathers and Fire.
Yeah, Feathers and Fire. Yeah,
Feathers and Fire.
Yeah.
I just call them Nate and Callie. For Nate and Callie.
I had to think about it for a second when I said that. I was like, all right, wait, what series? All right, Nate and Callie.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it tackles a lot of these different threads that Shane and I ended up leaving kind of loose in different places. Some which we were just like, of course, these need to stay loose for a little while. And then some that we were like, well, we really want to get back to it. And then, you write another 6 books and you're like, it's really hard to figure out how I'm going to go back and get back to that thing that I wanted to talk about. So I think it's, I will say, maybe the most mind-bending of the books, and in some ways really kind of influenced by this thing that's going on in pop culture with the whole like time travel and I say pop culture, there's so many other media formats that are doing it, trying to bring in all these storylines and like kind of explain how things happened. And so that's really what this is it's just a giant book full of like mind fuckery, really.
It is. But the thing that I like about it, and we spent a lot of time brainstorming this one. I mean, it was your idea, it was your baby. But
actually, funnily enough, I think it was your idea in a way that I don't remember how it came about. It was like something where you had said, "Oh, it would be cool if."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, it would," and then it would be cool, and then that was how that kind of started.
I think you're right, because you had the goal in mind, but you weren't, like you just said, there's a bunch of scenes you wanted to hit back up and you didn't know how to hit them. And I think I said, because I was on a drive, I remember exactly where I was driving down.
Yeah, you were going to go see Hunter, I think.
I was going to go see Hunter and have dinner with him and his wife. So we were talking, and we were somewhere between Missouri and Dallas. And I said, what if she went back in time? And you were like, oh my God, because we were talking about Merlin, we're talking about all these things.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. And then I don't want to give spoilers, so I'm being careful how I say this, but
well, how about we can say with Yuletide, because hopefully you will have read that. That's book 12, which has been out for a good long stretch. Yuletide, I think, was what we were talking about when we did this, where I was saying I wanted to write a book that kind of set up like the following one.
It's true.
Because I knew that I wanted something that was kind of not just shorter, but also just like punchy and fun, because it was going to be the first time I'd written a Quinn in a while. And I found that like it was really good to get back into her voice in kind of a really entertaining way. And I'm really glad I did, because this next one, while entertaining at points, is actually really heavy at a lot of points. So it needed a bit of balance. But I think we were talking about Yuletide, and I was saying, how can we go about it where like I can do this one and then follow it up with the one that I really know needs to be the next book.
Yeah.
And I think you had said something about, would it be possible for her to go back? And I was like, okay, how about we think about how that works? And what came out of it, honestly, I don't know. It's so funny, because every time you write a book, you think this is the way it's going to go. And then you put in the work, and every day happens, and every day something unexpected happens. Like you might write the scene that you expected to write, but the scene will manifest itself in a way that you would not have been able to do if you'd done it a different time, if you'd done it the next day. Right. So like so much of Snakebite, wildly enough, is I think as good, but also as interesting as it is because of the time frames that I wrote it. I wrote it while my wife was pregnant, for instance. And then I wrote it while my wife was in the hospital having the baby. And then I wrote it post, you know what I mean? So there were a lot of things going on in my life that made for some of these scenes. Like I was like, you know, some of them that were really fun. I was like, I need this bit of fun right now because there's a lot of serious things going on. Some of them were like, I can get really authentic with some of these moments because I'm experiencing them, not as Quinn would, obviously, but as a person. So
yeah, well, you can draw from it, and it's definitely
exactly.
I mean, when I read it, I genuinely thought it was probably the best book you've ever written.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's because Nate's in it.
Yeah. That's it. No, all right. I just want you to keep the same energy when the entire next book has nothing but Nate, and he's doing a lot of things that you don't quite understand. It's weird. It's like you don't really know his voice as well as I do as the writer, but
it was
I'll give it a shot.
It was really fun to see Nate in like so. I think it's. I'm trying not to spoil too much, but basically, Quinn is involved much heavier than anyone ever thought. More than Nate thought, more than Callie thought, and more than any of the readers even assumed. And that's pivotal. And we always kind of knew we would do that, but we weren't sure how we were going to approach it. Because we
didn't know that initially. There was an interesting conversation we had where behind the scenes, I think they'll appreciate this, where you had asked, are you going to do 4 or will you do more? And this, I think I was on like book 1 or 2, like it was early on in the process. For those of you who don't know, Shane approached me with the idea of like doing 4 and then doing a rapid release. So I read all of his books and then I pitched him and then I started writing. But the whole idea was that like, okay, if I can do the 4, great. But I liked it so much and I was doing so well that when Shane said, you know, do you want to do more? I'd be happy for you to do more, but you would have to, you know what I mean, sign on to something bigger. That was when we first started having that kind of like, okay, well, how in depth then is the story going to get? Which is actually why like the first book and the second book needed to get some changes, right? So I actually, those in the art group from forever ago might remember like the first draft of the first book was pretty different from how it ended up turning out, mainly because of that conversation. Because it was like, all right, we need to be planning for bigger things. Yeah.
And it's cool because we had multiple different options that we were thinking about kind of pointing Quinn, and she can do all or some, and we weren't sure which ones we wanted her to take. But I think the way that we haven't told anyone yet, but I think the way we settled, I think is probably the coolest way to get involved with everything. Facets to it, but it's this book was intentionally written the way it was written. It was written to show Quinn in a very human point where you can see her as just genuine and raw and like she doesn't know what's going on. She's just as confused as the reader at times. But that's where her character really shines through. And obviously Cameron's writing shines through amazingly. I think it's his best book, but I think it's his best book of writing Quinn, as in like you see more of Quinn in this book than any other book. And there's plenty of amazing like adventures or tribulations or trials that she goes on. But this book really just kind of summarized it all for me as a reader, where I felt like I really knew Quinn and really kind of empathized with her. And I thought it was super cool. I was very impressed because Cameron did this one kind of in the dark. We talked a lot on the phone early on about what options there were, what scenes we could do, since she is going back in time to certain very pivotal moments. And we were like, okay, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And Cameron really kind of ran with it. We just kind of threw a bunch of stuff against the wall and he ran with it. And so this is his baby. And I think he did an amazing job. I think you guys are going to love it. You might be confused at times. That's intentional. But it will.
People were getting a little upset with Yuletide too for similar reasons, actually, which is funny because you mentioned that in this one, Quinn is her most of herself, right? Like she's dealing with a lot of stuff and everything else. And of course she loses her memory. Spoiler. Hopefully not a spoiler. In Yuletide.
Yeah,
it did. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But the idea there is that like she regressed pretty intensely for a lot of readers. So a lot of readers were like, why is she acting like this version of herself as opposed to this other, who we would expect? And part of the reason I put it in there and done her like that was so that I was kind of like harking back to earlier books when she was less mature, when she was, not handling things quite as well, or making quite as good decisions as she was doing in the future. Which isn't to say that she's infallible, because by no means, but I think that what you saw in Snakebite, or what you will see if you haven't gotten your hands on it yet, is that character growth really comes at a cost.
Yes.
And I think it's a tough thing as a reader to pay that cost with them. And that's what this one is it's so great, but I can't imagine. I think anybody that reads it will feel very fulfilled and satisfied, but I do also think they'll feel very badly for her. But hopefully in a way that makes them want to know what happens next, because that's, I think, the next arc is going to be the most telling for her.
Yeah. And I think that's the coolest part about this story, is that you see her humbled. And she's been humbled plenty. That's obviously not something you're lacking, but you see her humbled in a level that she's confronted with so many crazy things, and the reader is also confronted with so many crazy things that you feel like you're standing beside her the whole time, because she's as confused as you are in some of these situations, because she doesn't know what's happening, and so you're kind of along for the ride. And I think that's really cool. It wasn't just a time traveling story.
No, not really. A large part of it was like me and you sitting and talking about okay, if you were a reader, what would you want to see? Like that was so much of what we did with this one, was okay, there's some scenes that definitely have to be here because we'd already planned. And then there were some scenes where I was like, I think I did the young Nate, for instance.
Yeah.
Minor spoiler, but I've also posted that chapter, so you guys should be able to check it out if you haven't already. It's live somewhere. Or not the whole chapter, but a bit of it. But that whole thing I wrote technically, I think, for Shane. We hadn't talked about it, and it came up when I was writing the scene before it, where I was like, I wanted her to get something from someone. Once she got that something, I was like, I wanted her to give it to someone, and so I wanted to write a scene where you got to see Calvin and Michaela. That's what I wanted to write. And then what I ended up writing was a scene where you get that, but then you also get a brief little snippet with young Nate, young Gunner. And I was like, this is the kind of stuff that if I was reading this series, I would just be losing my mind over, because these are the kinds of things that there's no really truly organic way to see a lot of this stuff. Shane could do it. I could do it, right? We're capable enough writers to do it, but it's really a hard thing to take your story away from the present into the past in a way that doesn't take the reader really far out of the story. Exactly. And so by putting her in the middle of it and having these things happen throughout, it really gives you a chance to feel like there's still tension. There's still things that are happening, but you're also getting to see and hear from people that you've always wanted to, and that Shane might eventually have to write a whole separate series for, but that I'll leave up to him.
The thing I thought was really cool is in a way, so if I wasn't the author of any of the books in this series, I felt like these were the things that readers always ask. What about this scene? What happened before this moment? Or what happened after this moment? Or what happened behind the scenes? So it's really kind of like an in-depth look and secrets and how this really transpired, how so-and-so got this power, how Nate did this, and you find out, oh wow, Nate really wasn't the superhero in that moment. It was someone who helped him, and it happened off page. You never saw it.
Yep.
And so you get to see all these things. In a way, it kind of felt like whenever you read a good book from one of your favorite authors, you kind of dream about certain scenes, and you're like, oh man, it'd be so cool if they told more about this side character or what happened after, because they cut to the next chapter and it was somewhere else. And you're like, man, I can imagine all these things, and you dream about it or you think about it. And so in a way, you kind of get all of those secrets. This is a book of secrets in a way.
It's a huge Easter egg book. It is jam packed with literally every Easter egg I could sneak in. Some so subtle that they still haven't been caught by the people that are around, and then some that I put in there and have been taken miles away from where I intended them to go, but I'm all for it because I think that shit's great. The more into it fans are, the better. I remember there's a specific author in mind who would do this, Shane, the thing that you're talking about, but so well. His name is Steven Erickson. I've got his tattoos of characters from him. But one of the things he did really well, I would say more than any author I've ever read, is so he did epic world building, but he would have a character meet another character, but from like a character from like book 2 will meet a character who's been around since like book 4, but in book 7, right? Like it would be one of those things where like he built them both up so much that the idea that they would ever like kind of cross paths was just like, holy crap. And then what would happen in those moments were often just either really funny or really like epic, right? It was either some sort of like truly epic battle of some kind, or it'd be like a bit funny because the one character that he built up just like smacks the other one in the face and he's unconscious and like leaves. But in any case, like I remember every time it happened, I was like, oh, my mind is blown by this guy's ability to put these things into it, like put them together at this moment in time. And I think, this book was a real conscious effort to do that as much as possible, like structured so that way it would like keep you going, and push you to like get to the next thing and see what could possibly happen next.
Yeah, and it sets up so many things that so some people, I know I've responded to a few people. Well, actually, let me back up a second. So it was fun for me to read because I got to see my characters from a different point of view. And there's things that whenever you're writing a character from first person, you can't ever show how something happens or how people think about them. And it's frustrating for me because I want Callie to talk about how much of a jerk Nate is or whatever, or I want Gunnar to just roll his eye.
His eye. Nice.
But roll his eye. But you don't ever get to do that. And so it was fun to watch you do it because you can play with all my characters. And so now I'm kind of envious because I want to run over to your world and just do the same thing where I can talk about Quinn or anything.
It's really hard when you're doing a first person. When you're writing in first person, you have to stay true to your character, and you have to say kind of when you choose that lens, it gives you such a narrow aperture. You get like such a great voice from your character, right? Voice powers it. Nate is snarky, never takes anything seriously, even when he's in like the gravest danger possible, right? Like that's his whole shtick, and it's great. But like, if you're the person who's like in the room with him and he won't shut the hell up about this thing and making jokes when everybody's about to die, you'd be like, this guy's just a fucking moron. And I can't stand, like, we're all going to die and it's going to be his fault. Yeah. And of course, usually he's the one saving the day, but I would understand why the character and the other, like the normal character in the room would be pretty pissed off.
Yes.
And so that was always my approach, was like, Callie's kind of the exact opposite in the sense that she's, very, very capable, and usually is making the reasoned decision, with some of the later books aside, but early on that was her whole bit. So and you'll notice, without giving too much away with Snakebite, but you'll notice there's less of the Callie stuff than the Nate stuff, but actually that's been pretty fairly true for most of Quinn's series. She's been more tied in with the Nate stuff than the Callie stuff. Mainly, I think this is more of a story decision with Shane and I, where like Nate plays in so many different places that it's hard not to cross over with like the Nate stuff, right? Like Norse mythology, Greek mythology, the horsemen, right? He's in the Fae, and Fae specifically for Quinn, right? There's like so much that he's got his fingers in. Whereas Callie's like much more controlled with the heaven and hell aspect, like the Christian religion, which Quinn doesn't really get into all that much.
Maybe we'll do
which may change.
Story.
We'll see.
A short story where Callie takes Quinn to church, takes her to mass or something, and everything.
I don't know if Callie's allowed in churches anymore.
She's probably not.
Probably not. She seems like she might be the one causing problems.
Maybe Quinn takes Callie to mass.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some possibilities. I know the arc for what's going to happen forward in a big way. It's about 4 or 5 books long for the next whole thing. So the people who are already super happy about Snakebite not having any cliffhangers are going to have to keep that energy, because it may not be the situation with the 5-book arc that I'm going to able to neatly package all of them, but I'll try.
You got to end it on something positive, and then something bad happens. That's the best way around cliffhangers. It's like conclusion, but then it's a little like blooper reel, kind of like Marvel does. It's like, oh, the movie's over, everything, the good guys won, and then you see the little 20-second clip, and it's like, oh crap, they did.
Yeah, I mean, I tried that. She went and she had like a really good time with Loki, and then she went and tore her eye out, and people were like, "This is just as unnecessary. It's gratuitous." And I'm like, yeah. But I led with just like you said. I led with jokes. There were lots of jokes, some really good songs, but apparently her tearing her own eye out was a little too far.
Yeah. I think it's fun how we interplay. Like I'm obviously very character driven. I think you are too, but you can answer that your own. But I'm very, very character focused, and then I try to put them in the worst situations possible. And so with Nate, I made him the stereotypical arrogant kind of jerk, playboy, whatever. That was really easy and really fun, and I really enjoyed doing it because you can just beat the hell out of him and have fun with it. Then I tried to make Callie that was a more reasoned approach, but maybe too reasoned, where she doesn't look into her emotions or empathy or sympathy or anything like that, or she's too critical of herself or other people. And so they really play off each other. And then Quinn comes in, and she's this eclectic mix. I don't even know if she's a mix of both, but she definitely has both characteristics. But she's also just she's a wild creature, and that was one thing that was so cool about her, is that she wasn't one or the other. She was like a wild creature, like a fae, and it was so cool to have that. And I think the 3 of them with the Templeverse, all 48 books now or whatever it is, and more coming. But I think they just play off each other so well. And that's why I loved Snakebite, but that's why I like reading all, I write the other 2, but that's why I like reading your take on Callie or Nate or whatever. And then I try to give a take on your stuff. And it's, I just think it's a cool dynamic. It's really synergistic that it's like oil and water. It's like oil and water to some extent. And
the stories develop for reasons that are so strange, because it's not always just story driven, right? There are times where it's like simple math. Like, I can't expect you to be available for certain things, and you can't expect me to be available for certain things at a level where it's like the autonomy results in some really interesting decisions, right? For like story, even, where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to take it in this direction because I know you have like the next 3 books, Nate, planned. Right. But you have like a big picture, but you haven't written them. So we can't like finally, you know what I mean, mesh the 2. So we'll do it this way for this stretch. And then when we finally get a chance to do it later, it's like, okay, now we can, because you know what you're exactly going to do for this one. And I'm going to do, you know what I mean? So it's made for, I think, like you said, a really synergistic experience, but it goes like even further to kind of like structure and the like the big arc. We've talked the ending, and we've done like 16 different versions, which is fair, because if you think about it, and I don't mean versions of how it's actually going to end, I mean versions of like how we're going to get to the end.
Yeah.
But like, it's fair in the sense that if you think about it, we started this, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. You started your whole thing way before that, but we've been doing this thing together for 3 or 4 years now. And like, so much has changed, like personally, professionally, in our lives. Of course, like the version of the story evolves and changes over time. And I think that makes for like a really interesting perspective, because I think that if you're writing your story in a vacuum, in the sense that like if you were just doing them on your own again, it's really tough. I don't want to say to find motivation, but it's tough to get to the places you want to go without having kind of that really kind of fun relationship with your characters. And I think it's really easy to lose the fun relationship with your characters when you're in a 20 book long series. I've seen it with so many authors that I really like. I think Laurel K. Hamilton's done that, where like the last, I don't know, 7 books of hers have all been kind of forced because, of course, she's been writing it for, I don't know, 15 years. Yeah. And it's really tough to keep the love of character going for that long. So doing it our way, I think, is actually, it's not only benefited the story, it's also benefited, I think, the kind of the joy we have when we write it.
Yeah, it's true. And it is hard to keep going. And I think kind of hopping around a little bit and doing a couple different, series or whatever, or building a world instead of just one series helps a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got distracted because I think it was Paige. Yep, Paige just said Nate's 10th birthday is this year.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even think of that.
You'll have to do an anniversary edition or something.
October 8th, I think. It was either October or October 12th. I can't remember. I think it was October 8th.
Where's your graphic novel? I'm waiting for it.
I thought about doing that like 4 years ago, and I looked into it, dug into it, and it was.
Hey, man, if you want to start your Kickstarter campaign you've been talking about.
True. Well, okay.
That's the one.
Let me write that down real quick. So is there anything else you want to say about Snakebite, or anything else you have going on?
I would say this is my thing about Snakebite, and I said it from the beginning when I first started working on it. I wanted to write a book that would make people who had jumped off the Quinn train for whatever reason, right? Let's say you picked up the first one and you were like, it's not really for me. She's too immature. She's too blah, blah, blah. Fair, because I wrote her to be that way. I wanted to write a book that basically says like, no, you have to read it. Like you have to read up to this and for like the whole series to be worth it. And that was my goal. And I really think I did that. And I'm not saying you can't read it without having it, but I really wanted to write a book that was so good that it could get you to say like, all right, like, let's say you stopped at, I don't know, book 6 for some reason. You were like, it's not for me anymore. Or like, I'm too busy, whatever, fine. But now I'm telling you like, no, you need to read the next however many until you get to 13. Like that was fully my goal with this one, was to give people the excuse to say like, all right, I need to sit down and actually dig in and do all these.
What else are you working on? Or what next? Not what else, but what next? Or what?
Yeah. No, I'm juggling a couple different things. So I've got obviously the next Quinn arc is something in like broad strokes that I've already started thinking about. And I've actually written down a bunch of notes, but I think I'll have to start doing kind of what I did with Snakebite and with the previous books, where I kind of plan out what it's actually going to look like. I was doing a lit RPG series, and I've got like a book and a half done on that.
Undone on that.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like a lit RPG is a very interesting medium, and it's taken me a long time to kind of figure out, because it's both incredibly simple and very difficult, kind of like romance, in the sense that like everybody's like, okay, like I can see the formulaic approach, I see how this works, but the actual like melding is pretty tough. And so I've got it. It's something that I intend to work on and potentially finish and do, but I don't know when. And then I'm also working on a new series in terms of just like fiddling with it and like thinking about how I would write it in kind of the paranormal thriller space, which is something that like I've always really liked. Like I've always really liked mysteries, like traditional mysteries, like Agatha Christie kind of like style mysteries. So I've always found those really, really compelling. But I think that like the ghost story, the Stephen King books style is just wild, and it's a lot of fun. So basically, I wanted to write a series that was kind of like a contained supernatural. Like it was just like not nearly as sprawling, not nearly as heavy hitting, but something that was a lot more focused, specifically in one town, kind of like how Stephen King does his Bangor, Maine stuff. Because he has these towns in Maine that are just so many bad things happen. Clowns eat kids, that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking about doing something along those lines. The big trick with me is that like I've got a lot of ideas, not a whole lot of time. And so I'm trying to kind of figure out how to juggle all of those things, and figure out exactly how I want to go about, brand building and also kind of just like what stories I think I can tell a lot of, right? So a lot of what I've done so far, Cinders and Salt's a great example. I think it's a fantastic book. If I had it to do over again, there's some things I would change. I would make it longer. I would have it more completed. Because I had intended to just roll right into from that one right into the second book and then into the third. But the first one took me about 1.5 years. And a large part of that was the research that went into it, because I tried to make it very, very accurate for what it was, which is like an alternative history book. And I think the writing's fantastic. And I like the character a lot. But it's one of those where, like, after having done it, I realized this is a lot of work. And I want to be able to write a series in the future that doesn't feel like a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's my goal for like what I'll be doing on my own next.
Yeah. So I'm looking through the comments here, and I forgot to mention this in the very beginning, but go ahead and post a comment on where you're from. Obviously, it's on scrolling on the bottom, but I'm just going to pick a bunch of random people to get print copies of Snakebite. It'll probably be a couple weeks before we get it, because it's not even launched on Amazon yet, so I can't launch it yet. But we'll do print copies that will be signed, and we might even be able to send them to you. Cameron and I'll figure out who's going to sign them, because it depends on, we're on different parts of the world right now.
Yeah, if they're in the UK, I got it.
So match how we do that. It might just be one of us signing it, because he's obviously in Scotland right now. So that's a little logistically difficult. But post where you're from, and just say hi.
I would have Shane make my signature, but it would look way too pretty for my signature. Hey, I don't know if this is a joke for those of you who have a signed Shane book. The first time Shane showed me his fucking signature, I think it was a Friendsgiving, and it was like, and I was like, how do I do? I want to do like something kind of nice, because my normal signature is like a scribble, like it's like a doctor's signature. There's nothing to it. And Shane's was like these two beautiful S's scrolling, like Shane Silvers. Of course, what you made it worse though, because like he would also do these incredible. Every single person who got a book from him would get this like incredible message, and I was like, how do you have like personalized every single person's that you see? You had a whole thing. I was like, thanks for buying my book, scribble.
$5, man. Yeah, my inscriptions give people orgasms. I mean, it's been scientifically proven.
Yeah,
I spent a lot of time working on that. But no, I actually remember you were practicing. You had a
no, it wasn't Friendsgiving. It was over at your house, man. I had to come. I came into your house, and I was like, all right, you guys. It was you and Lane, and I was like, all right, guys, we've got to figure out my signature, because you wanted me to sign something like 500 books so that they could all go out whenever. Yeah, and I was like,
yeah, you're right.
We can't do this with my current signature. It really needs to be something better. Right. And what I've got now is good, actually. It's pretty good, but it's no Shane Silvers.
So comment below, post where you're from, and then if you've read Snakebite, don't spoil it, but just tell us you liked it or whatever. And I'll probably pick like 10, 15 people to get free paperbacks. So. And then I don't have the link on me, but I posted it in the group. I'm going to be sending out an email tonight. You can still buy it direct from Argento. You save $1 for doing that. You still read it on your Kindle, your iPad, whatever you use, whatever electronic device you have. You can read it anywhere. But if you go to, I'll send out an email tonight, but it's in all the links that you guys saw to get here. But I'll post it in the comments below as well. But you can go to.
Technically, you will also never lose it in the same way that you might lose something that you find on Amazon.
That's true. We've had a couple readers recently that they had glitches in their Amazon account, and they lost every single book they ever bought, and it's not reversible. And these are the kind of things that I thought about before I set up the website. And I say but Lane helped. Obviously, he did most of it, but it was him and I talking about, we don't want to be reliant upon one distributor, because it's not fair to the readers. If something happens and they lose every book they ever bought, that's going to make us look bad, and we didn't do anything. And so I always wanted to have an option. So books available right now on our website. And then I believe it goes live on Amazon on June 14th. And so I think I have to take it down from my website on June 11th to be safe. So basically you've got till Friday. I would just buy it this week. If you're going to buy it, save yourself $1, buy it from my website. Cameron gets more money for it. You save more money for it. So it's a win-win. But it will be on Amazon.
If you are going to get it on Amazon, the one thing I will ask any of you to do that are on here is just leave a review. I don't care if you hated it. I don't care. I don't care if you thought it was the best book in the world. Well, I don't care. I think that's great. But I do want you to submit reviews, because that for us is the bread and butter of what we do. Almost everything that we get out of these, not just sales, but just, from a personal satisfaction standpoint, comes from being able to see what people think. And also like any critiques that they have, because we take all that stuff and we turn it into the next book. Sometimes we use it for fuel, like, wow, I can do better, then I will do better, that kind of thing.
Yep. So yeah, all reviews are good. Don't go in there just to, crap on somebody. Be respectful about it. But if you don't like it, tell us, because we can't get better if you don't tell us. And so reviews are huge. Any of the Templeverse books you've read, even if it's just a one line, I love this book, or Nate was so funny here, or Quinn did this great thing here. One line. It doesn't have to be a book report. Just review the books you like, because it moves us up in the algorithm. It helps us do better, helps us write more books. It encourages us. It feeds our weak little hearts, makes us feel better. And so please leave a review, buy it in whatever way works for you, either on Amazon on June 14th or basically till Friday on our website. Save yourself $1. And so we'll be doing giveaways there on launch day for Amazon. I'll be announcing probably 3 different giveaways. There's multiple different contests I've done in the past. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We might even give away some Kindles. I've got a whole basket of Kindles in here that my daughter was trying to steal, because she opened up my inventory and she saw, Dad, why do you have so many iPads? There's like 30. I was like, they're not for us. She's like, can I have one? And I said, okay, I got to get before she takes them all. So please go to Amazon and leave a review on June 14th. Until then, you can read it now. We've got a spoilers page where you can discuss everything, answer any questions you may have, because there are confusing parts. And they're intentionally confusing because it's something that's going to come later. So,
and we jam into those for sure. Like we check it and we look in. Sometimes it's a weird situation where, like, sometimes I'll see what you guys post and it'll either be really close. And so I'm like, I don't want to like that, because that'll be too much like saying like, that's what's going to happen. Or it'll be so far off that I don't want to like it, because then I'm going to really screw you guys over when it's nothing like what I want to do. So I do comment on the things that feel like that's safe, or things that, like, what were you thinking when? But there's a lot of conjecture stuff that's out there that I think is awesome. And I think I don't know if Shane gets as much of a kick out of it as I do, but I absolutely love watching you guys go down crazy rabbit holes.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you're doing it together, when you're just like, when it's like each one of you is just firing off a different, like, crazy theory, some of which are like not too far away. And some of which are like nowhere near it, but it's still great.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because you sit there and basically you're just eating popcorn. It's like watching Netflix, and you're like, oh, that person's right. I'm going to change it all now. Or you're like, I'm going to make them think they're wrong. Or you just comment because you don't want to give an answer.
Or they keep telling you to keep one character alive or bring him back. And we're just like, well, now that we know how you feel,
you better get those reviews up.
There's going to be some people who are really mad about that phrase, that comment that I just made, but that's okay. That's okay.
I don't
care. No, it's great.
One reader, I write for a good series, so good characters. But I know before we get to questions, we'll jump in there too. And I know I told you in the beginning, but if you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'm going to be flying through them, and me and Cameron will just kind of answer a bunch of them. So post whatever the heck you want. It can be for Snakebite, Yuletide, one of my books, whatever. Just post any kind of, or just question for us. If you're an author and you're writing a book and you're struggling and you have a question about it, whatever you want, just post it in the comments right now. I'm going to take a couple minutes while you're doing that to talk about what I've got going on, just real quick. So I know everyone's been kind of wondering. I've been super swamped. I had some business stuff that kind of changed recently, where Lane and I both agreed that he's better off somewhere else, going back into banking. And there was no hard feelings whatsoever. We both just kind of agreed that he was there was a lot on his plate, but not enough to be a full-time job. It just wasn't challenging to him. And so we both just kind of agreed, like, hey, why don't you look elsewhere and I can try and juggle this. But in the meantime, I overestimated my time. So I've been trying to juggle all the stuff Lane was doing, and I realized that I should have kept him on. But no, I'm getting the hang of it. It's going much smoother now. Today I did the work of like 2 weeks in the last 2 days. So really proud of that. I'm kind of getting back in the hang of doing all the stuff that he was managing for me. And he's still there. He still helps me a bunch. He's actually helping me tonight on some of the stuff that he used to manage. And we had a bunch of different projects that he was working on. And so that's why I've been kind of quiet lately. I've been, trying to help Cameron, Hunter, all the other authors. There's a lot to juggle for one guy, especially just to come in when he doesn't know where we are on certain things or who to talk to. And so that's why I've been quiet. So I'm getting all that under control. I think I've got it all under control now for the most part. There's a couple things I'm working on right now to wrap it all up. But on the other hand, I've actually started writing a ton recently. And so for a while, I was kind of so overwhelmed that it was really hard for me to just want to write or be able to be creative. And I just wasn't really proud of what I did write. But in the last week, I've probably written 20,000 words for Devil's Due, which is Shaded Devil Book 4. And I'm putting it up on Cameron's screen. I don't know how to switch it to mine, but so it's blocking part of Cameron's face. He can just lean to the side.
Hold on.
There you
go. There it is. Yeah.
So I've already got
in reverse, guys. This is really hard.
There you go. I've probably already got 60,000 words written in this book. Some of that will probably move to book 5, which is coming right after it. So my goal is to kind of back to back do the 2 Shaded Devils and maybe finish the series. I don't know if there's going to be book 6 and 7 like I originally thought. We'll see, because I've got a bunch of different ways I can take the story. But following that, there's probably going to be 2 Callies. And so time frame wise, I guess I should have started with that. I'm thinking probably mid-July, but if I can get it done earlier than that, it'll be earlier than that. And I'll announce as soon as I have a solid date. And so I need to talk to my editor, make sure she doesn't kill me. But like I said, I've already got a ton written. So potentially I could have it done in a couple of weeks. And so book 4 could be done then. So I would say July 15th. And then after that, probably 1st of September or sooner would be book 5. And then I've already got a ton written on the next Callies. So I fully intend to probably have 4 books this year, 4, maybe 6. I just don't want to stress anybody out. But I know I took a huge break, but I had a lot of backlog work done that I just put to the side to do all this other stuff. And so it could be potentially 4 to 6 books left for me throughout the year. So I don't want you to think that I've just been slacking, relaxing, and doing nothing. So that's what's going on for me. It's going to be Shaded Devil, Callie, Nate, Callie probably. And then I've got new series that are probably 2023, mid to late 2023 that I've got a bunch of stuff written for them too. But and I can actually pull one of those up if you just want to see the cover. I think I've shown it a couple times, but Shattered Halo. That's one of the covers for it. So it's about fallen angels. So it's a really cool story, really dark. It's not a romance thing. It might have some romance in it like Nate and Callie does, but nothing overwhelming. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on. So I wanted to let everybody know that I hear you. I know you're all yelling at me to write books. I get it. So I am working, but yeah, so that's what's been going on with me. And I'll be posting official dates once I talk to editors, cover designers, all these other things. I will give you plenty of notice. There'll be pre-orders. You'll have plenty of time. So don't be stressed. I just want you to know that I do have dates written down on my calendar already. So Cameron's got stuff. I've got stuff. We're all working here. So, but
you guys would be busy reading.
Oh yeah.
Plenty of reading.
There's going to be a ton coming. I know there was a couple, for me at least, I feel like I haven't written in forever because I was juggling this stuff. And I hate that. Like it made me feel itchy and anxious. And it actually kind of brought me down because if I don't write, I get into a dark place. And so the last couple of days, I just said to myself, do the most difficult thing you can manage. And if it's something you don't want to do, you have to do it. And so basically that was everything. So I the last 2 days, like I said, I knocked out 2 weeks worth of stuff. So, and as soon as I did that, I said, oh, I remember this. This is easy. And I feel so much. So, and that just kicked my muse back on full overdrive. Like I'll probably be up till midnight tonight writing. Like I'm jacked on the storytelling stuff. So I don't know, man. I'm just a weird person. So, I mean,
I get it. It's something that I think I understand now more, because so much of my time now goes to taking care of my son.
Absolutely.
In a way where like I had that as free time before, and it wasn't particularly well used free time, in the sense that like I could have been doing more productive things, but it was really hard to like manage all of that in a way where it was like, all right, like prioritizing things get away from you really easy. But now that I've got him, it's like writing is really a haven. It really genuinely, like I get excited to go, and when he goes down for a nap, I try and get half an hour to an hour. And when he's down, I'm working. And even if that's just like editing a paragraph and that's as far as I get, it still feels way better than the alternative, which is to spend another day wishing you had gotten a little bit further, or that even just you had refamiliarized yourself with your voice or your story or whatever. Because the longer you spend away from stuff, not the less important it gets, but like the less you can do with it. I feel like it's a weird situation to be in, because like once you take a step back from something, sometimes you benefit from it, right? Coming back, and then you can clean it up and make it better. But sometimes what you end up with is like two versions of the same story, where like you have a really hard time getting back to who you were. There you go.
All right, that was an accident.
No, that was good. I liked it.
I wasn't trying to.
But that can really mess with you, not being able to have access to something that relaxes you. Before it was like kind of the opposite, where it was like, I was doing all kinds of stuff to relax me, and writing was the job. Writing was the hard part. Now I'm like, I've got so many other things that are not relaxing that I have to do in my day, that writing is like golden. I'm like, like I haven't, it's so funny. I had Elden Ring, played it, managed to beat the sucker. It was great, but I haven't touched it since, because like timing wise, I'm like, I could play 20 minutes of Elden Ring and like jump around and do nothing. Or I could be working, and like the feeling of working is so much more rewarding.
Yeah, responsibility is so much more rewarding. Productivity. So I definitely hear you, man. I mean, I love video games and all that stuff too, but like even reading a book, I'll read like 3 pages and I'm like, I can write better than this guy. Like even if I can't.
Yeah, God, I feel that way all the time. that's like probably my biggest problem.
Yeah, who's he think better than that?
I haven't read much lately where I'm like, oh, that person's so good. And the ones that I do, I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm on board for this. But it is a weird feeling to be like, I'm better than this person. Like, let me pick a new book,
Absolutely.
That's weird.
Well, let's I know that you've got something you were considering announcing. I don't want to put you on the spot. Maybe you'll do it on your own. But you were talking about doing another video with someone. Is that something you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this is a fellow Argento author. Lori did a whole little special on him, which was really great. Last week before. Yeah, all the days blur together.
Lori's amazing.
Yeah, Lori's doing a great job. So he has his first 4 books out, beginning with, I can't remember the first one. It's the series is the Gin Knight series. They're all titles from the 80s, but with like magic thrown in, like Sweet Child of Magic. But I think that's book 2.
Pour Some Magic on Me, I think, is the first one.
Pour Some Magic on Me. Yeah, that's it. So I was thinking that it would be really cool if we could do kind of a second AMA following the release on Amazon. Because at that point, my hope is the spoilers can all come out and we can actually talk and address like specific scenes without anybody getting too upset. So that if any of these questions that people have want to get answered, we can try and answer them. Some of them I still may not be able to tell you anything about, but I can do my best. And so I was thinking we might do a little tandem thing with the author of those books, Ty Burson. I'm not sure about the date. I think Shane and we still have to figure out exactly when we want to do that.
I think we have it almost finalized. I was just wanting to check with you on your releases too, but I know he's got one book ready and maybe a second one close.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep. And I just talked to him about that. So when you and I are done, we'll chat about where he's at and what you think we're gonna all do. The one thing I'll say about that series is fantastic book series to pick up if you're waiting on Shane or I. It's like Shane, I, Hunter, Kimbra, anybody that's kind of available. Ty is out there with 4 really good books, same kind of fun setup, set in the 80s with a whole bunch of magic and frisky personalities. Ty's a little bit older, so he can write those books with a little bit more authenticity than we can. But we'll talk more with him whenever we get that specific date set, and we'll let you guys know obviously in advance so you guys can kind of prep and sit and think about some of the questions that you guys want to ask both him and us about snakebite, more specific questions, I should say.
It's perfect. I'm scrolling through the comments here looking. I've already seen the editor yell at me because July 15th is only 5 weeks away.
Yeah, I know. When you said that, I was like, so in like a month?
I saw you twitch.
No, man. I'm really afraid that your editor is going to kill you. Like we have the same editor.
You might.
So when you say shit like that, I'm like, I know how this is gonna go. So it's always fun for me. So does Quinn ever meet her father? Well, if you read the book, the answer is that would be impossible. And I can't tell you more than that. But if you read it, you would know why. So pick up Snakebite and find out why.
That's true. And I can't find the comment now, but I saw some people making sure that me and Lane are good. We're still best friends. He's come over like 3 times since then. There's no hard feelings whatsoever. He felt bad
just to get his stuff and figure out whose CDs get, who gets the CD, that kind of stuff. But
gonna get his towel, his underwear.
That's it.
No, so everything's fine. No, I was just talking to him today. He's great. We're gonna hang out this weekend. Everything's absolutely fine. And then a bunch of people are asking about Audible. That's one of the things that I said I have left to finish. So I'm going to be going through and pushing. I think it's Yuletide, Dark Horse, and then I think one or two of Ty's, right? That I've got to put on Audible now. And so that's one of the last things on my list. So I'll be doing that. I know I said I'd try and do it last week, but again, just trying to figure out how to do all this new stuff took me a while. So I apologize. That's on me. So I'll be putting that up. I'll post it explicitly in the den. I'll probably put it in the email that has all this information. And the last thing on there is Friendsgiving. I'm trying to figure out how to make that work. Lori's messaged me a bunch. So I'm working on that too. So we will either have a date soon or we will announce that, it's not enough time for everyone to plan. So we're going to do virtual this year, but here's the date physically for next year. I don't know yet. So I'm trying to figure that out. This all just kind of happened at the same time. So, apologies. I wish it was different. I really do. Trying to find another question. Okay, here you go. I don't know who it is, but I'll let you take that one.
I did actually. So I will say there's probably 5 scenes that Shane threw at me late, roughly, where he was like, okay, I've seen it. Like I'd given him like 30,000 words of what I'd already done. He read it and he was like, all right, I totally see where you're going. Cause it was hard to gauge it early on. Like I was like, I think this is kind of how I'm going to do it or whatever. But the actual execution of it was always a bit iffy because it's a really tough thing to kind of write your way into. And he threw out like a couple like fan favorites. I don't want to give you guys too many. But I will say that like there are scenes with some people that you would not have expected to see. Some of whom you definitely wouldn't have expected to see like young. And then certain scenes where like you see things that were talked about off screen in the Nate books, or even the Callie books that really get fleshed out. But the Pan scene was one that honestly, I think we set up a long time ago. So it's in, I can't remember if I think it's Seabreeze. The book before Brimstone Kiss. There's like a whole sequence of her running around with Nate in kind of like a dreamscape. And one of the scenes has to do with Pan. And like a version where Pan doesn't necessarily die. It's a little ambivalent. And the idea there was like, it's possible that, he didn't, or what have you. And there were some things that we were dealing with at the time where we're like, okay, some of these things are going to be real and some of these things are going to be like imagined, or like a version of their minds where they filled in a gap, and changed the reality if they could. The Pan scene in this book was one where I was like, I kind of wanted to shut that door, but I wanted to do it in a way where you guys got to see something resolved that you wouldn't have gotten to see otherwise. Because like Shane mentioned a while back, sometimes the coolest thing that you get is like when your favorite episode of a TV series, you get an extra couple minutes, right? Like if The Sopranos had gone on for like an extra couple minutes, I'm not saying it would have been better, but I am saying that it is for some people that's like, the deleted scenes, right? They want the deleted scenes more than anything, like just add it in the movie because they think it adds so much. I wanted to add essentially a deleted scene of kind of like what could happen, or how that could go about, in a way that was different from the ending we got with Nate. So that was planned by both of us a while back, but executed by me in this one. I think to Shane's surprise, I don't think this was one of the ones that you had mentioned adding. I think this was one of the ones where I had said, like, I think we could do something with this.
I think that one was your idea. Yeah. And there was a couple, I think I don't want to spoil it, but there was a bunch of really good ones that you came up with that I thought were awesome, because it's ones that we've kicked the can around, like Pan, for example. Since we were already talking about it, it's not a spoiler, but we talked about including scenes around that moment for books. Like we talked about including that in multiple different books, and we're like, let's move it here instead. And so, I think this is just a really cool collaboration because it's all those moments, those really pivotal moments. And that's the whole point of the book. It's all the pivotal moments of the series, from all series, that you're like, oh, so that's how that really happened. That's why that happened that way. Okay. That changes everything. And that's kind of the point of the book, is to really make you look at everything you thought you knew in a totally different light. And so it's fun. You guys are going to love reading it. I've got one person here saying, are you talking electronic format or a physical book? So if he's talking about buying it, you can buy the digital copy on our website right now, just ebook. June 14th, the ebook and the physical should be ready to go live on the same day this time. And then if you're talking giveaways, that'll be a physical copy. So I don't know which, I just answered all three because I don't know what you're asking. Then we've got this person that says, can you put the details on Goodreads now about Snakebite? That's something we just have to do a couple clicks on Amazon to get over there. So Cameron was waiting for me to get the ace in. We got that this morning. And so we'll be making that live. We'll both accept it as our books, and it'll auto-populate into Goodreads. We don't have any control over that. We just click, that's mine. And then we wait for them to say, okay, here you go. So we'll be doing that. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, post them in here, because we're going to be doing giveaways for paperbacks. And then on actual launch day on Amazon on June 14th, we'll be doing Kindles and paperbacks and maybe some other stuff. I don't know. Who knows? So I'll be doing a bunch of cool stuff. So do you see any questions you like, Cameron?
Let's see this one that just popped up. Will there be another Quinn book this year? I can't imagine where she'd go from here. So just to address that, if you mean
here.
Yeah, for sure, 100% on the story front. In terms of when it would get published, I have to imagine there would definitely be another one before 2023. Like there's no version of this where that doesn't happen. I'm not sure if it'll be 1 or 2 or where we'll be sitting. 3. No, Shane, I don't want to get so far ahead.
That's true.
But story-wise, there's not a problem. Story-wise, I knew before when I started Yuletide, what I was going to do at the tail end of Yuletide, which is technically, like, chronologically the end. Although the very end of Snakebite does allude to some of those elements. But there's a kind of a path forward for Quinn that I think has kind of like emerged organically, and there might have been a couple other questions that dealt with this, like characters that people really like from her that they want to know more about, or like, will they make an appearance, like Cathal or Kathy?
I was just that one. Yep.
Yeah, and the answer is absolutely. And the next arc will try and take as many of those in hand as possible. I can't imagine all the characters are going to be able to join the ride, because there's some that obviously are kind of planted where they are for her storyline purposes. But I do think that you guys are going to be very pleased with both the direction that she goes and kind of the idea that she's essentially starting from ground zero. And that's like the end of Yuletide. It's like this idea of like starting from scratch. And that was always my goal. Was to kind of like build her up in a very chaotic way where it was like never really clear what she was gaining, unlike Callie and Nate, who I think like you guys can all pretty much see the growth of their kind of like power structures, their networks and stuff like that, to build them as characters and in terms of who they're going to have to go against. I think now it's Quinn's turn. Now it's Quinn's turn to do this thing where she's compiling and kind of figuring out for herself who she's going to be and what kind of impact she wants to have. Because until now, from a story perspective, a lot of things have happened to her. And for the next 5 books, at least, I think it's going to be a lot more about like what Quinn's going to do to other people and other things, which is going to be really exciting to write, because it's always great when a character gets agency.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun because her and Callie, I think, are both on book 13 now, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure where you are with Callie in terms of book number. I've read them all, but I don't remember what number.
Angel Dust was 12 or 13, but basically we're trying to catch them, catch the girls up to Nate, because we can't have Nate. We can't do too many Nates, because then he's at the Omega War and the girls are like back here. So we're trying to kind of catch everybody up to the same storyline. So those of you who want Nate, I've already got so much written for scenes and moments and fights and all this stuff, but I can't really put it together until I know what Callie or Quinn are doing, because it's a universe. It's not just Nate, right? So we could obviously shorten their series, but I don't want to do that. I think they're such cool characters that would be a shame. So we've talked a lot about that, how we're going to handle that. And so we're trying to catch them all up. So Nate just did 16, I think. And so we're trying to get, obviously 14, 15, 16 for Quinn. And I think the same for Callie. I think that was the original goal. Unless she's on 12, then I've got one more extra book I'll have to write. So the editor will yell at me even harder.
Yeah. Only if you keep throwing out dates.
I know. She loves it. You guys have no idea. She loves it when I throw out dates without ever talking to her. It's her favorite. And I always do it on live. And I always tell myself I'm never going to do it every time.
That's all right.
So last question. I don't know who Shane is, because he didn't spell my name right. But because when did you decide to go with the current OG Four Horsemen arc? I really loved the characters, the character development, and their small background drops. And it came as a big surprise with what happened. So I don't want to spoil it too much, because that is one of the newest books, but actually the newest couple books. But it was always something I didn't want to do, but I knew I would have to do. It was painful for me too. I'll put it that way, because I love certain characters and I love having to kill them, and I hate having to kill them. So But there is a purpose behind a lot of the things we do, even if it just seems like we're just trying to shock you or make you mad or whatever. We do have reasons for killing people or doing certain things to other people. So it was intentional. So, and I think we've gone like 15 minutes over. So if there's any other questions in the comments that pop up after, or we missed you, because we're not technically on Facebook right now, all the comments are just flowing through to us. So if we're missing some of your comments, we'll probably hop in and like it or thumbs up or answer your question or whatever.
Yeah, I'll be probably tomorrow because it's past midnight here, but I'll definitely be going through, because I saw a bunch going as we were talking about other things. I'll go through and comment on a lot of these different things, because like I said, I love seeing all your guys' stuff, and all the ideas are great.
And also post in the comments what you think I should buy the editor for making her so mad tonight, so she doesn't kill me later. So post your ideas in the comments, and I'll probably have to do that.
Oh, she really likes Teslas. I can tell you that.
Yeah, okay. I'll get her a picture of one.
I'm just saying, you said throw out an idea. You really didn't give a number or a cap, so I'm just,
That's my fault. All right, guys. Well, hey, it's been awesome. I'm going to be much more active in the group now that I've kind of got everything under control. But I'll be catching up on emails and messages that I may have missed or not answered. So I look forward to it. I'm really excited to get back into the action and talk to you guys. It's the best part of the job, other than just telling crazy stories. That's the first part. I guess talking to you is the second best part. So I had a lot of fun.
The best part is having people to read our crazy stories.
That's true.
The best part.
And the money. I would say that.
And the money. I wouldn't do it for free, but
I probably would. It'd be good. So
I'd just be sad. I'd be a sad person doing it for free.
Stuff. So, all right. So yeah, this has been awesome, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks.